Welcome to the Neighborhood Law Center. I'm your host, Melvin Burris, and our guests are Hal Foley, organizer for the Virginia Organizers, and Deshaun Langston, community activist. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank
Hello.
you. Thank you for having us.
Our program today, we're going to be discussing restoration of voters' rights. And before we get started, Hal, could you give us a little background about yourself?
Sure. I am Harold Foley, organizer for the Virginia Organizing. I've been organizing with them for about 10 years. So we've been working on issues such as voter restoration. We've been working on predatory lending, but I think the most important thing is voter restoration. Virginia Organizing has been working on voter restoration since 1998. I got involved as a volunteer with Virginia Organizing and had an opportunity to go to, at the time, Governor Warner to talk about making changes to the application. I lost my rights to vote in 1990. And when I got out, I attempted to get my rights back, but the application was 13 pages. Mm-hmm. And so, it took me like 5 or 6 years to really think about going and doing the application.
Okay. Well, let's hear from Deshaun. Give us a little background about yourself, Deshaun, and what you're doing as the community activist.
All right. Well, my name is Deshaun Langston. I've been living in Charlottesville, Virginia since the early 80s, My involvement in this particular issue is that I recently got my rights back by registering to vote a few weeks ago. Since the governor passed this bill, I had interviews with Vice. I don't know if you know what that is. Vice is an international publication. I got a phone call from them asking about what Governor McClure was. What the governor here in Virginia, what he did. They was very interested in that. Channel 19 News did an interview about the restoration.
Now, right?
Somewhat of a little local celebrity, I guess.
Okay.
A few people that said, I seen you on TV.
Okay.
I was on a straight talk radio station where I actually registered to vote.
Okay, good.
On live air.
Okay,
So,
let's get going on the subject here.
Okay.
And we're going to get back to LaShawn, but we want to get some background and where we are and what you had to do to overcome the obstacles for Virginia Organized, overcome the obstacles to get us to this point on April 22nd, 2016.
Well, Virginia Organizing, what we believe in is involving people affected by the issues. So when I say people affected by the issues, we involve returning citizens to go and talk to the Secretary of the Commonwealth, to present to the governor about the needs for folks to be able to vote or be able to get jobs. And so, the process, the Governor McAuliffe, heard what folks was going through. And, and when he first got in office, he said, I'm going to make sure I can help folks get their rights back to vote. Because he know it wasn't just a matter of something that did happen years ago. It was a racial reason why folks didn't have their rights back to vote. And so, we've been meeting with the Secretary of the Commonwealth. Secretary of the Commonwealth, LaVon Stoney at the time, heard us and, made some changes where folks didn't have to pay their fines to get their rights back. So they took some barriers away to make it possible for folks to vote. But April the 22nd, 2016, the governor took away the most important barrier where you don't have to fill out the application.
So that's where we are now.
Yeah, that's where we are
So
now.
let's talk about what rights are being restored.
So the rights are being restored is your voting rights, the right to be on a jury, the rights to be a Nordic Republican, and the rights to hold office.
A notary Republican.
Yeah.
Okay. And who has or who gets their rights restored?
So the folks who get their rights restored, he gave rights to 206,000 individuals. So those 206,000 individuals have finished their probation, have finished their parole, and they are off of any sentencing guidelines that they had to do before getting off of this. So these folks are basically folks who you bump into if you're doing voter registration, who said to you, I lost my rights 5 to 15 years ago. Those folks can get their, just fill out the voter registration form, and they have their rights back.
Okay, so everybody, well, it's not automatic. So
No,
tell
it's
us
not automatic.
Tell us the process of how you can get your, or who or what you have to do to get your rights back.
Well, you have your rights back. Those folks who have finished their time, those 206,000 people, they automatically go and register to take one of these Virginia registration forms, fill it out. But the most important thing is when you do this form, question number 4 asks you, have you been convicted of a felony? And
Hold it up,
it's very white, but it says, question number 4 said, have you been convicted of a felony? You say yes, you say Virginia, but the day you got your rights back is actually April the 22nd, 2016. And my number is on the screen. If you ever want to know what's going on, wanted more questions, please give me a call.
Okay, so now he gave the rights back to 206,000 folks.
Yeah.
What about those who did not get their rights or are coming out of jail?
So
what's the process there?
Those folks who are coming out of jail or are off of probation a month later, it get thrown into those 206,000. But what happens is they do it every month. But to be safe, to make sure that you're not, doing a voter registration form and don't have your rights back, you can go to the Secretary of the Commonwealth page and look up your status.
Okay.
That way you know you can register to vote or not.
Okay, and the page you're talking about, referring to, is commonwealth.virginia.gov/ROR.
Yep. Or if you can Google Virginia Secretary of the Commonwealth.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, good. So expound on some of these things that you've gone through to try to get some of our fellow citizens back to vote.
Yeah, so like I said, this has been one of my passions for a long time. And what happens is people lose their rights. When they get sentenced, in the state of Virginia, they tell you lose your rights to vote, so you'll never vote. But what they don't tell you that you have to petition the governor.
Okay.
And at one time, like I said, the application process was 15 pages. One of the governors who changed the process was Governor McDonald. He started the change of the process of making it 1 page for nonviolent offenders and making it that you'll get an answer back in 90 days.
Okay.
But Governor McAuliffe came in and he really changed the game. He made it a 1-page application for everyone. Then he changed the game by saying, I'm going to take the barriers away, that you don't have to pay your fines, but you have to pay your fines. But this is not going to be a barrier for you to vote.
To vote.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, will this order remove conviction from the felon's criminal record?
No. Okay. So in the state of Virginia, you cannot get anything expunged off of your record. The only way that could happen if the state of Virginia do a constitutional amendment to say that they can do that. But that's a whole another animal in itself. But to get your record expunged in Virginia doesn't happen. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what about the felon who was convicted in another state and now lives in Virginia? How is he affected?
Well, if that person lives in Virginia and they has a resident in Virginia, reside in Virginia, they get their rights back too.
Okay.
Yeah.
One thing, just as Virginia is a hunting state.
Yes, it is.
A bunch of hunters, a lot of guns and firearms. Do you get your rights back based on this order from the governor?
You do, but you have to petition a judge to get your gun rights back. Okay. So you do have, when the governor gave you your rights back to vote, it gave you the opportunity to petition a judge and ask him to bear arms again. Yeah.
Okay, well that's good. Deshaun,
Yes, sir.
You've been pretty active in the community doing your fair share of putting the word out on how convicted felons can get their voters' rights restored. Tell us about your story.
Okay. My story basically is, I'm living my everyday life, working, taking care of my family, and like Mr. Foley said, it's like once you have this stigma on you, you kind of take yourself out of the political arena. You feel like you have no say so in who's going to be the next governor, who's going to be the next mayor, or so forth and so on.
Or Commonwealth attorney.
Or a Commonwealth attorney. But now, with this opportunity, I have an opportunity to actually participate in what's going on in my community and how it affects my life and my children's lives as well. So that's what I've basically been doing. A lot of people been asking me how to do it and how do it apply to them since they seen me on Channel 19 News, heard me on the radio, and just in general conversation in the community. And I tell them to go on the voters registration website and just register to vote. And Mr. Foley already told you where you can check your status at to see if it applies to you. But basically, 206,000 people. So if you've been out here in the community and you off papers, you paid all your fines, then you're probably one of the 206,000. So just register, and they'll send your registration in the mail like I got mine, and then you know that you officially got your rights back. And Earl also stated that if you wanted your gun rights back, then you have to petition to the judge for that. But prior to this bill being passed, you had to get your voters' rights back before you could petition for your gun rights. So the governor actually took away that first step to individuals who want to get their gun rights back to go hunting or simply to protect their family and their home.
Okay.
And can I
ahead.
clear something up? It's not a bill. It was an executive order that he signed.
Order, okay.
And he's getting a lot of slack from the Republican Party about him doing that. And the whole thing about why he did it, and if he was there, it was because it was a racial motivated reason to make sure that this is written in the Constitution to keep the darkies not voting. They came up with three ways to do it: the poll tax, a reading test, and to disenfranchise African Americans.
Just to get some background, you're talking about 1902.
1902,
When
yep.
they changed the Virginia Constitution to include those three things. You
Yep.
tell us what it was again?
It was the I think it was the Constitution. I forgot. I'm sorry. It was the it was three things in the Constitution 1902 that they came up with to make sure the darkies don't vote or participate in the political process.
And the three was
The three was the poll tax, the reading test, and to disenfranchise the darkies.
Okay, and this was probably because they didn't want African Americans at that time to be elected into office, to be able to create bills, to create laws that would
Benefit us.
benefit us, make it fair, and make it equality for all. And so now we've come a long way, baby. That's
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
here now.
Yeah, we're here now.
Now, but what are we doing with that right? I mean, there's 206 folks who's gotten their rights back. What are we doing to see that? Make sure that they not only register, but also come out to vote.
Well, one of the things that I am doing when I've registered folks, I ask them if I can keep their phone number. One thing about organizing, 90% of organizing is follow up. So with those folks who I talk to, I ask them to can I get their phone numbers? And the reason why, in organizing, I know if you touch a person 3 times, they're going to vote. So, one of the things I'm going to do is definitely call them, definitely ask them if they are educated about the candidates. One thing that that we should realize is that we're talking about folks who probably never been in the political process.
Right.
And so we got to make sure that we can help them understand, what their values are compared to the person they're going to vote for.
Okay, we have to take a little break right now to give a status of where we are. This is Welcome to the Neighborhood Law Center. I'm your host, Melvin Burris, and our guests are Harold Foley, organizer, and Deshaun Langston, community activist. We're talking about the restoration of voters' rights. And with that, I'm going to give it to Deshaun to tell us what he's done since he's gotten his voters' rights back and how he's involving other people.
Yeah, since I had my rights back, which I stated earlier that I did it live on the air on Straight Talk radio show, the process was very easy. There was someone from the registration office there, and she opened up the website, asked me very simple and basic questions, so it's nothing real difficult for an individual to go through. And Harold Foley already stated that when it asks the question about your status as a felon, you say yes, and then it asks your status when you had your rights restored, and you put April 22nd, 2016. And I have my registration that came in the mail not too long after I did it online, so it's official.
Hold it up, let them zero Okay.
I'm one of the 206,000
Okay.
people who was restored. So this is the evidence, and it's not a fluke, that it's real.
It's real.
So
But-
what I want to encourage individuals that haven't registered yet to go register. You can do it online. It's very simple. Or you can go down to DMV if you need to do something with your ID, your license, the application that the DMV asks you. If you want to register or not, you can do it that way. But don't just register to vote and still don't participate. You might be in the habit of not participating because you didn't have your rights to vote, so you excluded yourself from the process. But now, become involved, be vocal about how you want your community ran, who's going to be in the office, Commonwealth attorney, and all that stuff, because our unity going to show power, and we can affect the way our children grow up in our own communities. And that's of great value to me individually. I know these brothers right here is passionate about it as well. So that's what I would say.
Okay. One thing we mentioned about the database, go to the website, your name should be there. But what if it's not there and you served your time and you paid your fine, but your name is not there? What do you do after?
They have a phone number there also to call to contact the Secretary of the Commonwealth's office. Okay. I think it's an 804 number.
804-692-0104.
Yep.
And that's 804-692-0104 if your name is not in the database and you think that you have the right to vote.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so, to check your status is really easy. They ask you first your last name, your birthday, and your last four your Social Security number. And if you've been out for 15 years, your name will pop up. But if you had just recently got out at the beginning of the month, you might have to wait 30 days after to check it, because those names going to be forwarded to the data bank after you get out. When I say get out, I'm talking about you finish your parole, your probation, your jail sentencing, everything.
Okay. One thing I guess is what's kept many folks from registering and is the fines and fees that you owe. It's because it's an obstacle when it affects a lot of folks. They lose their driver's license, some other things. So how does this affect, and I think you touched on it before, but how does paying your fees and your fines affect you to register to vote?
Well, it doesn't. The governor took that barrier away, I guess, a year ago, to say to folks, you have to pay your fines and fees, and your court fees, but it's not going to be a barrier.
Okay.
So this governor understands that. I had to give it to him. He had the courage to make sure that what he's doing is going to be, there for a long time. And he makes sure that some barriers that was causing people to not vote was eliminated. So that's a great thing about this governor I like about.
So what things do folks need to register to vote?
So only thing they need is to make sure they got their status, or know that they've been out, they have finished their probation, their parole.
Photo ID?
No, they don't even need photo ID to vote.
Right.
Oh yeah, so yeah, to vote you do need a photo ID. I'm sorry, and ID is significant. A college ID, if you are in Virginia, is significant. But if you don't have an ID, you can go to the voter registration office and they give you an ID to vote. Not an ID to go and cash your checks or anything, but this be a specific ID to go vote in the election.
Okay. And just to move forward, what is Virginia Organizing doing as far as getting the vote out?
So what we're going to do, we're going to be setting up in areas such as Mills, Brown Market, the Shell Station, doing festivals, just to get people registered to vote. And like I said, the second part to it is definitely getting the vote out. Is following up with folks and saying, hey, do you need a ride to the polls? Do you want I can come pick you up at a certain time? One thing about Virginia, a lot of folks don't understand. Virginia have an election every year. So we have the presidential election, which is a high number turned out. Next year we're gonna have the governor's race, and we got to keep that high number turned out. And you got to make sure that if you're going to vote, you're going to vote for that person who's going to represent you. A lot of folks, don't want to vote in local or in the governor's race, but they are very important because those folks will make a determination on how you're going to be living in the next 4 years to the next 50 years. Because the laws and the policies they make can affect you, your kids, and your environment. So you got to stay involved. You got to be educated. And I'm going to say educated. You got to know what's going on in your community.
Informed.
Informed voter.
For instance, I guess you could look at the Board of Supervisors
Yeah.
in the county
Mm-hmm.
and say, why aren't there African American being represented
Yeah.
on that board?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What can we do to make a change there?
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't African American voters, whether they got their could vote or not, going out to those hearings
Yeah.
and those meetings to voice their concern about certain issues?
Mm-hmm.
I hope that when you get these organizers together and you get the people registered,
Mm-hmm.
as you say, keep it a list so that you can keep them informed
That's
in a
right.
newsletter of bills or decisions that's going to affect them and their family.
Well, one thing that I believe in, and I is this a cliche that I say is, I try to make people feel comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. Because if people don't feel comfortable about going to city council or going to the board of supervisors or even voting, you got to make them feel comfortable about doing it, because then they'll be thinking outside the box once they do that. And a lot of folks are not doing that. A lot of folks are so uncomfortable about doing certain things. Virginia Organizing, we are there to help people make them feel comfortable in an uncomfortable situation, because it's uncomfortable to go see the governor. But if you go see the governor and you do what you got to do and tell the governor certain things that you need happen, afterwards, I seen people say, man, it wasn't so bad. So I tell people, feel comfortable about being in an uncomfortable situation, regardless in life what you're doing. That way you can succeed in life and be able to do things that you think you never can do.
Okay. Deshaun, what is your next step? Now that you got your rights back, you're registered to vote, you're out here talking with folks to see that we can get some more people involved. What is your next step or your plan as far as voting is concerned, and also your work in the community?
I want to continue to get the word out there. I want to promote informing people about the candidates that's coming up, especially locally and statewide, because that's very important for our community. We got the big presidential election coming up, and that's good, but we want to focus on things that's going to affect us in immediate time. You know, like Charlottesville, Virginia. I need to know what's in place for when my children. You know, I got teenage daughters, might driving around, going to school here. My daughter graduate today from Louisa County High.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? She'll be attending VCU next year, so I'm a proud father. But I want to know what's in place that's going to affect my daughters as they out here. You know, what's in place for them, like as far as their employment, the laws that's governing when they drive and getting put, whatever they got to do with my children. I got boys that's growing up, they 5 and 8. I want to know what's going on because they are my concern right now. And if I can be involved in the community and get my word out there, vote for who I need to be in office, advocate for the people that I believe in, then I'm a full-fledged, that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got about 5 minutes left. We're going to start wrapping up. But one question I have for you: we have a new police chief in the city of Charlottesville. Is there any way the Virginia organizing could have a reception and bring in some of these folks that we've been talking about, for the community to meet the chief? It's an idea. Deshaun was talking about that local officials is very important
Very
because they touch our lives every day, and this would be a great opportunity for his sons and our children to meet the police chief in an organizing type of situation, so he'll know that we're there to help him and support him too, and he doesn't have to do this on his own.
Well, you know, what we believe in Virginia organizing is bar and share and power. And I would love for a collaboration of different organizations to do that. So, yes, we could do that, but we would like for other organizations to help us with that effort also.
Okay, let's start reaching out.
Yep.
Okay, so let's kind of wrap it up. Harold,
So I
would
do
you
have,
like to leave with the?
I do have a book that Virginia Organizing wrote about power and how building power changes lives. And it's just a book about organizing, the stuff that Virginia Organizing has done in the last 20 years here in Virginia. And so if you ever want to know about Virginia Organizing and the work we have done, it's got a lot of stuff in there about Charlottesville, about Southampton Roads, about Lynchburg and stuff we have done.
How can they access the website? Where's
So
the
you can go
website?
to the website at www.virginiaorganizing.org if you want to buy this book. Or you just give me a call, 434-409-0791, and hey, we can have a conversation. We can talk about the book, or we can help you get involved. Another thing is Virginia Organizing, we have a local chapter here, and we meet every first Monday at Legal Aid from 6 to 7:30.
Okay. Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up. I want to thank you for watching. This has been the Neighborhood Law Center. We have talked about the restoration of voters' rights. Our guest has been Harold Foley, organizer Deshaun Langston, a community activist. I've been the host, Melvin Burris. And I want to remind you to go to our website, neighborhoodlawcenter.com, where you can see some other programs also. We are on Mondays at 10 p.m. on Channel 13, so take the time to look at us. And also you can get us on YouTube. Just type in Neighborhood Law Center, and that'll pop up. And so until next week, peace and God bless.
All right.